Dominic Dyer, many of you will know, he's been on virtually every Badger Army march that's happened in the last 18 months or so. But Dominic is the CEO for Badger Trust, and he would tell you all about the history, I think, and the national perspective. So hand over to Dominic now.
Well, thank you. Well, let's welcome the Badger Army back to Taunton. Yes! It was 2 years ago almost to the day when I first came here and stood between the rain and the sunshine and spelt out my views for the first time about this horrible culling policy. They were based on my experiences working in the food and agriculture industry, and I think that particular video, that speech, seemed to spark a real debate around the country about the horrors of this policy. And after that, I was asked to go and speak at many other marches up and down the country. And since that day, we've had 30 of these marches in towns and cities across this country. That's the biggest rolling wildlife campaign anywhere, not just in Britain, but in Europe as well. So pat yourselves on the back. And has that made any difference? Because journalists are asking me here today, has it? Well, it most definitely has. Last year, Maury did a poll, and it looked at the 10 most common issues of complaint to MPs in their mailbags. And badgers were number 5. Why were they number 5? Because in every town and city that MPs were sitting and looking at this issue, we were piling through. We were getting media, national and local coverage. We were ensuring that their mailbags, their emails were being filled up by people that were angry about badger culling. And they were then in turn taking that debate back into Parliament, and in turn taking that debate all the way up to David Cameron. We've had over 330,000 people sign a petition in the last 2 years. We've had a High Court challenge with the Badger Trust trying to stop this mad policy because of the lack of independent monitoring for year 2 going forward with culling. We've had 3 debates in Parliament, and this has become probably the most controversial farm environment policy in this country in the last 30 years. So all of us know that this is wrong. But now we can look back 2 years later. When I was standing here in September 2013, we were guessing what the results would be of culling. But we have been proven right. £15 million has been spent on killing 2,476 badgers. That's £6,100 per badger at an age of austerity, where we're cutting back in the health service, in education, and other walks of life that are important to all of us. Do any of us feel in his area today that we should spend £6,100 killing a badger? Do we? And the worst aspect of this is we tested none of those badgers for disease. The randomised badger culling trial that the last Labour government undertook killed over 11,000 badgers, spent £50 million on it, and we found that over 85% of the badgers had no TB at all. Only around 1.65% of them would be considered excretors, where they could be potentially spreading the disease to other badgers or cattle. Nothing has changed. We can be certain if we did a study on all the badgers we've killed in Gloucestershire and Somerset in the last 2 years, we'd probably get the same results. And for that reason, the government has tested none of them. And it should be ashamed. Would you agree that's disgraceful? Yes. Exactly. So we've killed a vast majority of completely healthy animals. We have not reduced bovine TB as a result. You would never do so. Killing a few animals that have disease is not going to make any difference in Gloucestershire and Somerset. In fact, the TB mapping data that we're seeing coming through from DEFRA is indicating that we could be seeing increases in TB in certain areas where culling is taking place, particularly in the perimeters of the culling zone, where we've always been concerned about the so-called perturbation risk. And this so-called anecdotal evidence that some vets have been pulling out and putting into the Veterinary Times and other publications to justify this policy, and people like Owen Patterson who jump up and down saying it proves something, is complete and utter nonsense. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Exactly. And it's not right. It's just not right that we're killing our wildlife in this way. There are so many better ways of doing this. So many better ways of dealing with bovine TB that helps the taxpayer, that helps farmers, and helps protect our wildlife. We don't have to look far for a better example. Wales is showing us how it can be done. In Wales today, 98% of the cattle herds are TB-free. In the last 5 years, you've seen a 48% reduction in the numbers of cattle going for slaughter because they have TB. We have a vaccination program that has proved very effective. We're not certain the long-term impact on reducing bovine TB, we can't tell at the moment, but we have learned some important things. We've vaccinated over 3,500 badgers. All of those badgers were visually inspected to see how they had lesions. If they were visually sick from having TB, not one of them was found to be so. They were all returned to the wild. So would you not agree that Wales is showing us that the vast majority of badgers are completely disease-free? And would you not agree that Wales is actually showing us the way in how we can spend taxpayers' money better, how we can help farmers, and how we can protect wildlife? And would you not agree that rather than the farming industry saying that Wales is wasting taxpayers' money and is involved in a dangerous distraction where it's not helping farmers tackling the disease, that it's the exact opposite? Wales is showing us the best way to get on top of this disease. Would you agree? Exactly. Now, I don't just spend my time doing UK wildlife and badger work. I work for Born Free. I'm very proud to work for that charity. In the last few weeks, I've been very much involved in the death of Cecil the lion, a story that's become a global, huge story of concern about wildlife protection around the world. And people ask me, what is it about Cecil the lion? What is it that made people so angry? Well, I'll tell you, I think what makes people so angry is that we started to wake up to the selfish greed, the selfish corruption, and the way that we're willing to destroy what's left of the wildlife in this world for our own evil pleasure. That's why Cecil the lion made people so angry. But when I look at the reaction to that issue, when I look at the statements the Prime Minister is making to say we will commit ourselves to tackling global wildlife crime around the world, I'll say this to David Cameron, I welcome that. But you know something? Badger protection, wildlife protection in this country is just as important as protecting species in Africa. Would you agree? And the wildlife protection debate doesn't stop at the English Channel. It comes all the way back here too. Don't you agree? And people say to me, oh, you're going on about badgers, you're sentimental, why don't you just give up on it? We're never going to give up on this battle because we know we're right. We're never going to give up on this battle because we know we have science on our side. We're never going to give up on this battle because we know we have the issues of animal welfare and humaneness on our side. And when people say, well, you've been at this for 3 or 4 years, that's a long time, that's nothing. Badgers have lived in our landscape for 500,000 years. There are people here that are going out into the fields the next few weeks that I admire greatly to protect badgers, to sit on sets, to go on wounded badger patrols, to do everything they can to stop this insane slaughter. And what are they finding? They're finding badger sets that could have been inhabited for hundreds of years are suddenly left empty. All the badgers are gone. Animals that could have lived in our landscape for nearly 500,000 years have disappeared. Do any of us feel that's justifiable? Does that not make us think that we have to fight on? It doesn't matter if it's 5, 10 or 15 years. If we're trying to protect animals that have lived in our landscape for 500,000 years, we ain't going to give up. Would you agree with me on that? We're going to keep marching. We're going to keep campaigning. We're going to keep telling our politicians that this is not acceptable. And I say this to the farming industry. This is not an anti-farm campaign. This is not about saying we don't care about farmers. I care about the farming industry in this country. I've worked in agriculture and farming for many years. I think it is wrong, desperately wrong, that farmers, dairy farmers, are producing milk in this country that's costing them 30p a litre and the retailers are paying them 23p a litre. Do you think that's wrong? Do you think it's right that we should be selling milk in our stores cheaper than bottled water and Coca-Cola? Do you think it's right to keep those prices so low that farmers have to move cattle around, hundreds of thousands of them, with poor controls that increase the level of TB and increase the infection of the disease in our wildlife? And then the argument is we've got to kill the wildlife as a result. Do you think that's right? Cheap food is not something that we can accept at the cost of destroying our wildlife. It doesn't matter if we're selling cheap milk to Sainsbury's or we're selling powdered milk to China. It should not come at the price of destroying our badgers. So the Badger Trust has been speaking to the retailers. We've spoken to Cafe Nero in recent weeks. We've spoken to Sainsbury's. And when we've gone in to see them, we've said this: listen, we have to all come together to find a solution to this problem. But you have a critical role to play because you're buying the milk from the farmers. So rather than forcing the price down, and putting them in an impossible position. Invest in farming in this country to produce good quality food with a good price that goes with it. And when you do that, get those farmers, with your help, to put in proper biosecurity controls on their farm, to put in place proper TB testing and cattle control systems, to back badger vaccination projects across this country that are proving to work and have huge popular support, and also invest long term in a cattle vaccine for cattle that we know, if we can trial it, get it to work, and put it into the marketplace in this country with the support of the major retailers, we can get on top of this disease for good, and we can stop this tragic slaughter of our wildlife. Would you all agree? And that's the message that you've got to keep taking to your politicians. Don't give up on this. You keep writing to the retailers. You keep hammering your MPs. What I'm pleased to see is that May the 7th brought a surprise maybe for David Cameron. It brought him back in government, but quite a lot of his new MPs actually are not that supportive of this policy. More and more Conservatives are having doubts. Obviously Labour MPs are largely on our side. What's left of the Liberal Democrat Party, I hope, is largely on our side. So most of the politicians, I think, today know this is not going to happen. And also in DEFRA today as well, there's a huge debate about the cost of this issue. The government is about to cut another 30-40% out of its budget. People are going to be losing their jobs in that department. You're going to see 30% cuts in the police force of the West Country and other parts of the country where culling could take place. No one can afford to pay for this anymore. And the one thing we're certain about, the taxpayer is paying for this, not the farmers. And unless the farmers can cough up and support it, there is no justification for the taxpayer to pay that money. Would you agree? Exactly. We are now at a crossroads. In the next few days we will get an announcement from the government. We expect they will go on in Gloucestershire and Somerset, but there'll be a discussion as to whether they go into Dorset. We're saying this about Dorset. There is no way that you can justify extending this tragic rail crash of a policy. It's failed on economic grounds, it's failed on humaneness grounds, and it's failed on scientific grounds. It doesn't have popular public support. Most of the leading scientists in this country won't touch it with a barge pole, and most politicians know it's not going to work either. So to extend this policy now is a national disgrace. Would you agree? But if they do extend it, and they might, we will be in the fields in Dorset, we'll be in the fields in Somerset, we'll be in the fields in Gloucestershire. We're not going to go quiet. The Badger Army is going to keep marching up and down towns and cities in this country. We're going to keep challenging this in the courts. We're going to still be working in the media. We're going to still be hammering MPs. There is no way we're going to go quiet on this. We are winning this battle. It takes years to finish a policy like this, but we're wearing away at it. And it will, at some point, come to an end. And all of you can be proud about the part you've played in that. So today is just one more moment in a long battle to protect our badgers. The Badger Army fights on. Thank you very much.
Save our badgers! Save our badgers! Stop the cold! Save our badgers! Stop the cold! Stop the cold! Stop the cold! Save our badgers! Stop the cold!